Yes. Welcome, everyone. It's Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's November 4th, 2019. The start of a new week here at the Marijuana Times. Check us out at marijuanatimes.org or search the Marijuana Times on various platforms like, say, YouTube or Apple Podcasts or maybe Google or other search engine. If you don't use Google, search us out, seek us out, and we're here, as is proven by you seeing me. Today, we're talking about Florida lawmakers are going to be busy with cannabis over the next few months. Also, a really awful story out of Louisville, if the details of a new lawsuit are to be believed. And investigators in California have seized and destroyed, well, let's just say, a large amount of marijuana. Not going to give away any more than that. Let's just say it is quite a large amount of marijuana. Before we get to all that, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides grow safe and poison-free with Natureside. They're awesome. You can be regulatory compliant. You don't have to use harmful, awful, banned pesticides on what you are growing. You can use Natureside instead. Nature-side.com, proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Thank you, Natureside. This first story is by Julia Granowitz at marijuanatimes.org. Florida lawmakers debate decriminalization and other cannabis bills. Big goings-ons, as they say, in Florida, from decriminalization to reworking the state's medical marijuana licensing process. Lawmakers are going to be debating on at least 5 new cannabis bills in the near future in Florida. Some of them would involve decriminalization by relaxing minimum sentences and criminal penalties. House Bill 339, for example, aims to reduce minimum sentences for marijuana crimes, giving judges the ability to be more lenient on certain cannabis sale and trafficking offenses. The law will still include sentencing guidelines, but it would give judges discretion to determine specific penalties. HB 25 would decriminalize possession of anything up to 20 grams of cannabis, while many counties in the state have taken it upon themselves to decriminalize. This is the first time it is being considered by the state legislature. Also, there will be changes to how the FDOH licenses cannabis businesses, and selling more edibles will also be discussed. HB 149 aims to redefine who the Florida Department of Health hands out business licenses to. The bill would lift the current limits on the number of applicants that can be licensed and remove the cap of 25 facilities per license. The idea behind this is that by allowing more businesses, the high cost of medical marijuana will drop, providing greater access for more patients. Something I talk about quite a bit here, the need for more supply across the board. If you want lower prices, if you want better access, more supply is the key. Senate Bill SB 212 would revise the state's definition of edibles and allow low THC cannabis products, as well as marijuana and marijuana delivery services. So a lot of stuff going on in Florida. Good for them. Of course, they'll be the focus next year of the nation when it comes to the presidential election, as they have been for the last several presidential election cycles. We'll talk about what they have going on in cannabis. Also, there's going to be an attempt, maybe a couple attempts next year to pass recreational legalization, adult use legalization in Florida as well. This next story, as promised, is awful story from Reason.com. Louisville SWAT team looking for pot needlessly terrorizes family thanks to a false tip, a cursory investigation, and a detective's nose. You want to check out the whole story. Very long, involved story about the lawsuit. Click the link in the description of this video. A Louisville, Kentucky SWAT team looking for marijuana broke into a home and terrorized the family living there based on claims police easily could have debunked if they had been doing their jobs properly, according to a lawsuit filed last week. The cops, quote, continued to detain plaintiffs with rifles drawn on them even after it became clear that the residence was a family household and not a drug dealer's lair. The complaint read, Alicia Burr and Mario Daughtery say more than a dozen SWAT officers stormed into their home without warning on the morning of October 26, 2018, breaking the front door, setting off exploding devices, quote, unquote, presumably flashbang grenades, and shouting commands while threatening them and their 3 teenage children with assault rifles. Family initially thought they were being robbed, and one of the children, a 13-year-old girl identified as ZS in the lawsuit, ran through the back door and into the yard in an effort to reach her grandmother's house next door. The cops then sprang into action. Officers drew their assault rifles on her, yelling commands at her to get on the ground. ZS was extremely frightened, began crying and submitted by kneeling on the ground. It was cold and rainy, and ZS was not wearing any socks, shoes, or a jacket. She repeatedly requested to be taken to her grandmother's next door, but the officers refused the request, kept her in the cold, wet conditions, and kept their rifles on her. The girl can be heard sobbing in a video of the raid's aftermath. "Hold on, hun. We're almost done, okay?" says one of the officers. "We'll get you back inside. You're not hurt, right? You're just scared? I'm sorry." Are you? That's nice. Burr and daughter's lawyer, Josh Rose, says police initially denied they had any video of the raid. After he pointed out that the SWAT officers were required to wear body cameras, he says the Louisville Metro Police Department released a highly expunged copy of the footage. And there was just so many things wrong with getting the warrant. Apparently, they supposedly received a tip from someone who reported that a black male named Anthony McLean is growing marijuana and has multiple bags of marijuana packaged for sale in the front room. The tipster also stated that a white female named Holly, who was McLean's girlfriend, and that she owned the house. If Detective Joseph Tapp had bothered to look up property records, he would have seen that the house was in fact owned by a man named Kevin Hyde, who rents it to Burr and Daughtery. The lawsuit also knows the quote, "Nobody named Anthony McLean or Holly lived at that house or at or near the time of the raid, and that Alicia is not white, and that nobody in the house was growing marijuana or had multiple bags of marijuana packaged for sale." In other words, wrong on all fronts from the police. And as a lot of people are wrong in their jobs. That's fine. Nobody's perfect. But the problem is when you have as much power as the police do, and the ability and the lack of consequences that come from using that power, then you're going to have problems. Police have to be held to a higher standard. You got to look into, well, who does own the house? Some, crackhead CI that you talk to may say they got a bunch of marijuana in there. By the way, even if they had bags of marijuana for sale, is all this necessary? Even if they were right, and there was there's plants and bags of marijuana, it's crazy nuts in there, bro. There's marijuana everywhere. Is all this really necessary? The kicking in the door and the rifles, and then the 13-year-old girl running and keeping her out in the cold. Is all that necessary? I find it hard to believe that it would be. But in any case, you got to be held to a higher standard. You got to do your job, because the consequences could be deadly. One of these people could have been shot easily. The cops could have been shot by someone coming in. If one of the parents or whatever has a gun and they think they're being robbed, what are you going to do if someone busts in your door and you think you're being robbed and you have a loaded gun? What are you going to do? You will begin firing, probably wildly. Unless you've taken some sort of, shooting classes or whatever. If you've never used a gun before, you're just going to start shooting anyway. People get hit. Dumb. I think they take them for every penny. I don't know what they were looking for. I didn't even check. Like I said, it's a very long story. There's all stuff happened that day, and just the Louisville Metro Police Department couldn't have done more wrong things. If it does say how much the lawsuit's for, I don't see it right offhand. It's SWAT team of 14 officers for bags of marijuana. They weren't even there. But even if they were there, it takes 14 SWAT members for bags of marijuana. See, if they didn't do that for stupid things, and then this would never happen. They never thought, well, yeah, bags of marijuana. Let's get the SWAT team. We got to get in there and nip this in the bud. Anyway, this last story from NewYorkDailyNews.com. Investigators seize and destroy millions of marijuana plants found in California, worth more than $1 billion. That's right, I don't have any sound effects, but pretended I do, and that was very dramatic. $1 billion. Search of Southern California cultivation sites last month turned up about 10 million marijuana plants worth more than $1 billion, which were then destroyed by investigators, for the reason the Golden State said. They uncovered a giant haul of weed in an October 25th sweep of 11 fields in the Arvin area, about 100 miles north of Los Angeles, according to the Kern County Sheriff's Office. Growers presented the fields as legitimate hemp production gardens, but testing indicated levels of THC in the plants far exceeded legal limits for industrial hemp, also according to the Sheriff's Office. The investigation was conducted by local officials with the assistance of the FBI, spanned more than 450 acres of land. The Sheriff's Office said the probe was ongoing. $1 billion. in a state where marijuana is very, very expensive. I understand it's illegal. I get that angle. They're going to destroy it. They're making a show of force against those who do it illegally in hopes of lessening the competition for those who do it legally. But just from a purely supply and demand perspective, $1 billion of marijuana destroyed. Well, let's just say marijuana prices in that area, in the surrounding area, will go up probably considerably for some time to come. It's just what a waste. What a waste. It's not like, they busted a house and had 38 plants in it. They're talking millions of plants worth $1 billion. And we talk about the marijuana industry in terms of future projections, in terms of billions of dollars. And there's $1 billion, just poof, just gone. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Again, I get the illegality. I get all that. It was inevitable that it will be done, but it's nuts. It's nuts, bro. It's nuts, bro. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the show. Cannabis News. We're here 5 days a week. Search the Marijuana Times on YouTube. Almost 2,600 subscribers there. You can also find the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. Thank you to Natureside, nature-side.com. And their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thanks to all of you for watching and sharing and liking and commenting on these videos and spreading the truth about cannabis with this show. Thanks for watching and listening today, and we'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.